What if I told you one of the greatest rally games ever made came out over 20 years ago, and somehow it's still completely free? No car pass, no microtransactions, no paid DLC, just almost 800 rally stages and over 100 cars. The game is Richard Burns Rally, or more specifically, Richard Burns Rally RallySimFans, because they deserve every bit of credit for keeping this thing alive. Now, before anybody jumps in the comments, let me save you the trouble. The graphics do look terrible. Yeah, they do. I'm not gonna argue with you there. If you're coming from Gran Turismo, EA, WRC, or Forza, you're probably gonna load up this game for the first time and think, what? People seriously play this? Trust me, I thought the exact same thing at first. But I honestly believe every sim racer with a PC owes it to themselves to give this game a chance. Today I want to explain why I fell in love with Richard Burns Rally, why I think it's still the greatest rally simulator ever made, and then later in the video I'll show you a few things that I really wish someone would have told me when I first started playing, because it would have saved me a lot of time and frustration.
3, 2, 1, go!
For me, my whole sim racing journey actually started out on PlayStation. I spent countless hours playing Dirt Rally 2, Gran Turismo 7, and honestly just about every racing game I could on PlayStation 5. Every time I saw the name Richard Burns Rally though, I kind of ignored it, just because I didn't own a PC. It was honestly one of those games that I figured I'd never get a chance to play. Then my wife surprised me on my birthday with a gaming PC, and without exaggerating, one of the very first things I did was download Richard Burns Rally. Now I will warn you, the installation process is probably going to make you question your life choices a little bit. It was actually the first thing I've ever torrented, and I'll be honest, it felt a little sketchy.
You're stealing, right to jail.
But after doing a little research, I found out the original developers no longer exist, so this game is actually considered abandonware.
I've abandoned my child!
And that's why the RallySimFans launcher has become the standard way for the community to keep this game alive. Once I understood that, I felt a whole lot better. And looking back, downloading this game was honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made since getting a PC. It's really hard to explain how good this game is until you actually drive on it. By the way, if you've never heard of Richard Burns himself, I think it's worth taking a minute to explain why this game carries his name. Richard Burns wasn't just some celebrity they threw on the cover to help sell copies. He was a 2001 World Rally Champion and one of the most respected rally drivers in the world. He actually worked alongside the developers to help make sure the cars behaved realistically, but sadly, Richard Burns passed away in 2005 after battling a brain tumor. I think it's still pretty incredible that more than 20 years later, a game carrying his name is still introducing new people to rally racing every single day. His legacy truly didn't end with his championship. It continues every time someone loads into this game for the very first time. The first time I drove Richard Burns Rally, I immediately understood why people still talked about it. It's honestly difficult to describe until you actually feel it. The steering, the way the weight transfers, the grip, everything just feels realistic. Now, I don't actually have any real world rally experience, and I'm definitely not going to pretend like I do, but I've been driving real cars for over 15 years, and there's just something about the way the cars move in this game that feels more believable than anything else I've ever played. Once I finally got my wheel settings dialed in, everything started to make sense. The cars don't really feel glued to the road. It kind of moves underneath you. You can feel the weight shifting. Every little steering correction matters. Every brake input matters. Every throttle input matters. And this game absolutely refuses to let you get away with bad driving. It doesn't hold your hand and make you feel like a hero. It's kind of like playing a Dark Souls equivalent of a driving game, honestly. My first real holy crap moment wasn't actually when I started the first stage. It actually happened when I finished my first stage. If you've never played this game before, you're going to crash a lot. You're going to roll the car, you're going to fly off cliffs, you're going to wonder why your co-driver apparently wants you dead. I'm convinced that guy has a life insurance policy put out on me. But that's exactly what makes finally reaching the finish line feel so rewarding. It genuinely feels like you've earned it. Looking back now, I'm so much faster than I was when I first started, but I still remember how steep the learning curve was, and honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the graphics. Because I already know that's the biggest reason a lot of people have never given this game a chance. I get it. The first time you load into Richard Burns Rally, you're probably going to think, people seriously call this the greatest rally game ever made? Compared to modern games, yeah, it looks old. Really old. But here's the funny thing. About 30 seconds into your very first stage, you stop caring. You're not sitting there admiring tree textures. You're trying not to wrap your car around one. You're looking 3 corners ahead. You're listening to your co-driver. You're trying to keep your car balanced over every crest, every little bump in the road, the graphics kind of just fade into the background. Some of the newer stages definitely look better than some of the older ones, but I've genuinely learned to appreciate this game for what it is. The driving experience completely outweighs the graphics. That surprised me more than anything, but when I finally got this game downloaded, I opened up the stage list and it just kept going and going and going. I remember sitting there scrolling and thinking, there's no way all these are actually playable. Hundreds of stages, gravel, snow, tarmac, wet roads, dry roads, night stages, different weather, different layouts, reverse layouts, everything you could ever imagine. It honestly just feels endless. I've only been playing this game for a few months now, and I still don't even think I've scratched the surface of what you can do in here. It's insane, and I kind of love that about it. Every time I sit down and play, there's always something new to experience. That feels incredibly rare. Then there are the cars. There's so many different kinds of cars: historic rally cars, Group B rally cars, modern Rally 1 cars, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive. Whatever era of rally you enjoy, there's probably something here for you, and more. And every car has its own personality. They each ask something different from you, which makes learning them incredibly satisfying. In addition to all that, here's something that completely blew me away. Once you download RallySimFans, that's basically it. Everything is already there: physics updates, cars, stages, HUD options. Most of the stuff you spend hours hunting down through random forums and probably get charged for, it's already included. The only thing I've personally changed afterward was installing a different set of pace notes because I prefer a numerical style. Everything else was just ready to go, and I can't tell you how refreshing that is, especially in PC sim racing. Because let's be honest, it feels like every game wants something from you today. Buy this car pack, buy this season pass, wait until the next update. Sometimes I just want to play the game. That's it. I don't want to be your beta tester. I don't want to buy another DLC pack. I just want to sit down, turn laps, and have fun. And Richard Burns Rally gave me exactly that. And I think that's only possible because of one thing: the community. I don't think this game would exist if people didn't genuinely love it. Nobody had to spend years making new stages. Nobody had to improve the physics. Nobody had to keep updating these cars. They did it because they genuinely cared about this game. Not because they were going to get rich, not because there was some car pass attached to it, just because they wanted to preserve something they believed in and something that was special. I have so much respect for that. In a world where so many racing games disappear the second they stop making money, Richard Burns Rally somehow did the exact opposite. The original developers are gone, but the community never left, and that's pretty incredible. One thing I didn't expect though was how much this game would actually improve me as a driver. Not just in Richard Burns Rally, in every racing game I play. Before this game, I kind of bullied cars around corners. I'd throw them in, hope for the best, correct it halfway through, and just hold on for the ride. Richard Burns Rally doesn't let you get away with that. It forces you to think. Throttle control, weight transfer, looking farther down the road, setting the car up before a corner instead of reacting halfway through it. This game is a massive skill check that you're probably not ready for, but it's a lot of fun to learn. And then there are the pace notes. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I heard them, it sounded like complete gibberish. You're doing almost 180 kilometers an hour, and this guy is rattling off instructions faster than your brain can process them. I honestly thought there's no way people can actually understand this. And then one day, it clicked. Now, I actually trust my co-driver more than my own eyes. Well, most of the time. Every once in a while, I'm still convinced he wakes up in the morning thinking, how can I get this guy to drive into a tree today? But once you learn the rhythm, it's one of the coolest feelings in sim racing. Now, if you're still here, you're probably thinking, okay, Brian, you convinced me. Where do I even start? Well, first of all, you want to go to the RallySimFans website and download this magical game. Secondly, here are a few things I wish someone would have told me day one. The first one is probably the easiest mistake to make. There are actually two different places where you can set up your controls. And if you have the same controls set up in both menus, sometimes your game will crash, which is a little bit annoying. But if something isn't working correctly, don't immediately assume your wheel isn't compatible or you've done something wrong. Double check both menus and just make sure you have all your settings set up completely. Trust me, I learned that one the hard way. The second thing, force feedback. Rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, all wheel drive, they all feel completely different on the wheel. And I know it's a little bit annoying having to come back out and adjust settings for each car, but once you dial in a car, the game remembers those settings and you only have to do it once. The settings that you type into the launcher is highly dependent on how strong your wheel is. On my Thrustmaster T598, I was around like the 400 mark, but on this new Fanatec wheel I have, I'm around like 1100 on the same car. Fiddle around around with it and just figure out what works best for you. Another thing that completely surprised me, the amount of customization. I'm talking HUDs, gauges, camera options. You can move almost everything on the screen. It's honestly one of the most customizable racing games I've ever played. Take some time to make a setup that feels comfortable for you. Don't just leave everything on default. Make it set up for the way you want and have fun. The next thing, FOV. You can absolutely set one global FOV, but I found myself tweaking it on certain cars. If you didn't know, you can actually bring up the adjustment menu while you're in a stage by double right-clicking. That lets you fine-tune your seating position and camera for each individual car. It sounds like a tiny thing, but it makes a huge difference once you're trying to place these cars on narrow roads. And here's another huge tip, your pace notes. When I first started, I was using the default style, and honestly, it just never clicked for me. And then I figured out how to switch them over to the numerical pace notes, you know, like 1 through 6 scale. That's just how I've always played rally games in the past. Dirt Rally 2 works like that, so my brain immediately understood what my co-driver was telling me. That doesn't necessarily mean that numerical notes are the best, it just means they're best for me. You're definitely going to want to find whichever system makes most sense to your brain and stick with it. You can change the pace notes by double left clicking, and then this little drop down window appears. In this little window, you'll see two options. The second option, when you open it up, you scroll down to numerical, and that's what I prefer personally. My last piece of advice, don't start with faster cars. I know, they're totally tempting. Everybody wants to go fast, but this game is brutal. Everybody wants to jump into a Group B rally car on day one. Don't. Learn how the game behaves first, learn how the weight transfers, learn how brakes feel, learn how to listen to your co-driver, take your time, because once you understand the fundamentals, everything else just starts to fall into place. Now, if I had to actually recommend one beginner car for you, I'd actually tell you to start with a Ford Fiesta Rally 3 Evo. That was the car that finally made this game click for me. The Rally 3 Evo car has enough power to be exciting, but it's four-wheel drive, so it handles very well, and it's also still forgiving, so you can actually learn what this game is trying to teach you. Once you're comfortable with that, then try moving on to something faster. Personally, I've completely fallen in love with the Hyundai i20 WRC. That thing is an absolute weapon. It's fast, it sounds incredible, and once you know what you're doing, it's one of the most rewarding cars in the entire game to drive, in my opinion. So, would I actually choose Richard Burns Rally over any other racing game that I own? Honestly, yeah, I would. Not because it's perfect, it really isn't. The graphics are old, getting everything dialed in takes a little patience, and the learning curve can be downright mean at times. But once everything finally clicks, you stop thinking about graphics, you stop thinking about how old it is, and you just start enjoying the drive. This really isn't just an old rally game. It's proof that a great game doesn't have to disappear just because the company that made it is gone. A passionate community looked at something they loved and refused to let it die. I think that's pretty incredible. If this video convinces even one person to download this game and they end up loving it the way I have, then spending the time to make this was completely worth it. If you're one of the people who's kept this game alive over the years, whether you've built stages, worked on physics, created cars, organized events, or contributed to the Rally Sims fans in any way, seriously, thank you. You made it possible for people like me to discover this game years later, and that's something worth being proud of. If you got any questions before getting started, leave them down in the comments and I'll be more than happy to help you. And if you'd like to see more RBR RSF content, whether it's guides, builds, wheel settings, or just me not trying to launch myself into a tree, let me know in the comments and make sure you subscribe. If you made it this far in the video, you're awesome and I appreciate you more than I can explain. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some rallying to do. And you do too. Download this game. Seriously, it's going to be fun. You're going to like it. You really are.